How Lewis Hamilton can go from tyres dead to fastest laps. There's a popular meme that has been doing the rounds for quite some time now. Bono, my tyres are gone. Which of course comes from Mr. Lewis Hamilton. However, the reason for this meme isn't the way that Lewis says it, or because it's funny. It's because the 6-time champ says it and then proceeds to either gap his rivals or set fastest lap after fastest lap, like we saw in the most recent Portuguese Grand Prix. Now this got me thinking, which is always a dangerous thing. What are the causes of drivers losing pace with the tyres but then getting it back after a few laps? Well, we got the answers from none other than race car designer Gary Anderson, who knows a hell of a lot more than I do. Let's dive into what's known as graining first. There are 2 types of graining. The first is when a soft tyre is not stiff enough to support the lateral forces the car can produce. This will start during that first time lap when the tyre is new and will reduce and may clear up as some of the tread gets worn off. The second type of graining could be classified more as cold tear. With a harder tyre, if you can't get the temperature into the compound, it will start to roll little bits of tyre off the surface. This is actually more difficult to manage than the first point because the only way to get it to clean up is to work it less, but that means you generate less temperature. The drivers would have had to be incredibly careful with this at places such as the Nürburgring recently, which was very cold for an F1 Grand Prix. So Lewis Hamilton would have been experiencing one of 2 things. Either graining, which if treated correctly, can clean the tyres up, basically nursing the tyres back to health by not overdriving the car, or overheating, which if the driver slows a bit and reduces the sliding, the temperature will reduce. From that explanation, we can safely say that Lewis's tyres weren't gone in Portimao. But when does a tyre get to the point that it's unusable? There is about 3mm of compound rubber on a slick tyre. Once that wears down by about half, it gets very difficult to keep temperature. Basically, the mass of the tyre is reduced to a level that it won't retain heat, and sometimes even going down a long straight loses too much temperature. This explains why Hamilton gets rather annoyed with the safety car for going slowly when he can't maintain warmth in his tyres. Poor burnt Mylander is trying his hardest, alright? Leave him alone! When the driver isn't able to get the temperature back, the performance really drops off. It's a big decision for them as to whether it's possible to continue or not. Initially, the drop-off can be a couple of seconds a lap, but in 2 or 3 laps, it can be a 5 or 6 second loss. So over a 4-lap period, you could have lost the time it takes for a pit stop. Obviously, there are other scenarios like a flat spot that creates a huge vibration that might even end up breaking the suspension, or even blistering can create the same problem. Us spectators, including me, give teams and drivers such a hard time for choosing the wrong tyre strategy. But with insight like this, you can kind of see how much they have to weigh up before making a decision. Last time out of the Portuguese Grand Prix, we had a really confusing situation where, although Pirelli set out that the softs were around half a second quicker than the mediums, and the hards were a further second back from that, some drivers and teams elected to go for the on-paper slower tyre and were just as quick. It turns out the new circuit surface itself didn't have the grip available to get the advantage from a softer compound. Basically, the track surface has to react to the tyre forces to get any advantages from potential higher cornering speeds and forces. It's a bit like driving on a dusty track at the start of a race weekend. There is a set speed you can go around a corner at, and if you try much harder than that, you will spin. The medium tyre just about matched that circuit grip. There you have it, all the tyre talk you could wish for. Do you think Lewis Hamilton's tyres are ever gone? Is he going through a blistering phase, or is it all a psychological game he likes to play with the other drivers? Let us know in the comment section below.